weekend, I am spreading ryegrass all over the field. I've gone from over there and done all of this so far. I'm just walking off 2 rows at a time and hand spreading this. This is just regular old ryegrass. It will take root and sprout up over the next 3 to 4 weeks and grow in the cold weather. It doesn't like the hot weather. It'll automatically die back if I don't plow it in, but I like to plow it in the spring, because what it does is it fixes nitrogen. It takes nitrogen out of the air, fixes it in the roots and in the body of the plant and the blades of the grass, and when you plow it back into the garden, you're putting nitrogen back into your garden, plus you're putting good compostable organic material back in the soil, which helps to build this sandy loam soil. When we first moved here, the water used to pool on top of this soil, and over the 15 years that I've been gardening and putting organic material by growing summer and spring and winter cover crops and plowing them back in, it has built this soil up to where it actually holds and retains moisture. It's a nice sandy loam. It's no longer just a sandy soil, and I do that each year to replenish nutrients, putting organic compost back into the soil, and to put nitrogen back into the soil. So I'm going to keep doing this until I finish up all of this area down here. Now you can see my little hand spreader right here. It's a simple little Dewey. You can pick them up for about $15 or $20 at Walmart or any feed and seed store, and it works well for doing an entire garden. This is a quasi-commercial plot here on my land. From side to side, this garden, from here all the way across, is about 75 to 80 feet. And from this point back here in the corner, way back yonder, all the way up here, is a good 200 and a quarter feet. I've never really measured it off exactly. I know that in the past I've bought soaker hoses that were 75 foot long to run across here, and they run just within around 7 to 10 feet of the end of the garden there. So this little hand spreader and a big 25 pound or so, I don't even know how big that sack is. I got that at Ijan Webb's, which is my local feed and seed store, and it's a big old bag of regular winter rye. Now they also sell a field rye. The field rye is interesting. I've grown it in the garden too in the winter, but if you don't plow it in early enough, it grows up about 3.5 to 4 foot tall and looks like winter wheat. Gets a big wheat head on the top of it. Looks just like a wheat, but it's called garden rye. It grows real tall. You could bale it up and make straw out of it. I'm not sure what they do with the seeds on it. I just plow it in to build organic material in my soil. Alright, I'm about 3/4 of the way done. It's only taken me about 30 minutes so far. I'm going to finish up this little back quarter of the garden. Well, you can see Maryland out there. The cats love the garden. Our garden cats, they come out here and they do their business out here, and they love to roll around in the dirt. You can see Maryland out there just loving that dirt. She's rolling all in it. And one of the reasons she likes that dirt is because we've done a lot to improve our soil over the 15 years of growing a garden here. Now I generally only grow on about half of this garden each year. During the summer months, I will grow a summer cover crop of iron clay peas, or iron peas. It's a very cheap seed. It grows in abundance, covers the soil with a green leafy matter, and then you plow it in before the first frost, before the beans produce. And it adds a ton of organic material, not a literal ton, I'm just using that euphemistically. It adds a whole lot of organic material to the soil to help build this soil, and it also adds a lot of nitrogen to the soil, which we want along with other minerals. Now if you look at this soil, you can see the hay and all the other stuff that I plowed in, and the weeds from last year are all down in here. Now this soil didn't used to do this. It used to be like sand. It used to just run through my fingers. Now our soil is what's called friable. See how if I take a bunch of this soil and I squeeze it in my fist and I let it go, it holds together. And if you push on it, it kind of breaks apart into chunks. This is what's called friable soil. And we've spent a lot of effort composting and growing a summer and a winter cover crop to rebuild this soil every time we use it. Now I let the weeds grow up too. My cats love that because the weeds in the part of this garden that I don't grow on and in the regular part of the garden that I am growing on in the wintertime get up to 2, 3, 4 foot tall, and they get really dense. I don't care about the weeds or the weed seed because I plow it all in. It's organic material. My cats love it because they treat it like a pantry. They can come traipsing out into the tall weeds anytime they're hungry and scrounge something up, a small bird or rodent or whatever, and a snake or a lizard, and make themselves at home. They love that kind of stuff. But in the after Christmas, I plow it all in, and I'm not worried about the weed seeds like big commercial farmers are, because weeds are not noxious, they're not toxic, they're not damaging anything. A lot of the weeds actually put nitrogen in the soil. Many of the weeds have root systems that go deep enough to bring up minerals and nutrients out of the deeper soil to the topsoil. And if you plow them in, they add to the soil by organic material, minerals, and nitrogen. I don't worry about the weed seeds that are here because I grow on a raised bed covered in a biodegradable plastic or paper or hay. So the weeds can't grow up and bother my plants. And in the fallow part of the garden, I'm growing a cover crop which crowds out most of the weeds. So it's all good. We build a nice friable soil here that supports a lot and just about any kind of vegetable we want to grow. A little bit more in a minute. I've got just a little bit more rye seed to finish on this end of the garden. Okay, well the whole garden now is done. And you can see the seed dispersion there, and there's my cat who won't leave me alone when I'm in the garden. One of the 3 outside cats. But you can see the good seed dispersion pattern. I've taken this simple hand crank, and I have in about 45 minutes, walking as slow as I could walk, and filling it up regularly, having it on the highest possible setting, number 5, so I could put down the seed density as thick as I could, as slow as I could walk. I've covered this entire garden in rye seed. And you may ask, how much of that big bag is left? Well, there's a little under half of it. I used just over half. I crammed as much of that rye seed into this garden as I could, reasonably. And I still have about a little under half a bag left, which is great. It'll come in handy later this spring to throw down in between some rows to use as a ground cover to keep weeds out until summer comes. It'll also work great in the early fall as a early ground cover to keep weeds down in between rows of fall crops. So that one $24.80-something bag is covered this whole 250 some odd foot long by 80 foot wide garden easily, a little over half a bag. Now some of you may be wondering, is he going to plow that in? And the answer is no. Rye seed is a great little seed. It'll take care of itself. All you have to do is have contact with the soil. Now I chose today is the day to put the rye seed in because I'm about 2 hours away from a big weather front. You can see it's kind of a gray day here and the wind is blowing. You can see the tops of the trees swaying there. I've got a nice hard breeze blowing. And what's going to happen is this rye seed is going to get pounded down tight on the soil by a good heavy rain that's coming in the next couple of hours. We're going to get 2 to 3 inches of rain here between now and midnight. Some of it's going to be real heavy. So it's going to drench this field, push this seed down tight into the soil. And what's going to happen, even though the seed is sitting on top of the soil, ryegrass, when it sprouts, its little root comes out like a corkscrew and it grabs the soil and corkscrews itself in and anchors itself to the soil and draws itself down in there, and then the roots spread out under the subsurface and start to grow, and then you've got ryegrass. So there really isn't anything else that needs to be done. You basically spread it right before it's going to rain and then forget it. The reason I spread it today is because it's overcast. The garden has moist soil. It's going to rain hard and put the rye down into the dirt and cause it to germinate quickly because we also have some warm temperatures. It's back up into the 60s today, upper 60s actually, near 70. So this ryegrass is going to sprout very quickly. By this next weekend, you'll already start seeing a fine green cover coming up on the garden. It'll look really pretty. And over the next 2 or 3 weeks, this whole garden will be turned into a beautiful, lush green carpet, and that's what we want. So it's always good to do it right when the soil is already damp and right before a good heavy rain, because that also prevents birds from coming in and eating a bunch of your seed or rodents or anything else. So it's going to germinate quickly, and nothing's going to get a chance to mess with it. Okay, I walked back over here to the truck, and as you can see, there's plenty of grass seed still in here. This bag is you can see how big it was originally. And I'll lift it up here. You can see it's a 50-pound bag. Cost me just under $25, and I've still got a little under half of it here. So this is going to come in handy later this spring and also again in the fall. All the ryegrass is in. Now, you'll see back here in the truck I've got a bag of 10-10-10 gold. This is a 10-10-10 good fertilizer, and it also has a slow release property to it. So this is going to not just leach out quickly, but it's going to slowly release into what I'm going to put it on. And what am I going to be putting it on? I'm going to be putting it on hay. I'll be putting it on all of this hay. What we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be experimenting for the first time with straw bale gardening. Now, we can't get straw around here. Very little wheat is grown down here in southeast Georgia. Most of the folks down here grow grass hay. Now, they tell you to use straw because the seeds that are in these grasses in this hay can sprout, and that may or may not be a problem, but I think that it's not going to be a problem. I've got bales. Every year I have 2 or 3 bales left over. They sit there, they compost, and nothing sprouts out of them, so we're going to give it a try. But we're going to be doing straw bale gardening. We're not going to be spreading this out as a ground cover. We're actually going to grow carrots and other root vegetables directly in this. It's very hard to grow carrots out here. If you try to grow it in a mulched material, then it's hard to get the carrots to come up through the mulch. If you're growing in like a plastic biodegradable mulch like I do, it's hard to put the little seeds in there and drill all those carrot seeds. It's a lot of work. This is going to be a lot easier, and what you get by straw bale gardening is you're turning the bale into a compost pile. And by doing so, you're creating virgin soil that has no insects in it, no diseases or any other things in it. You've got nice, clean, good composted soil, and more importantly, no weed seeds. So I'm going to grow carrots in these. I'm going to show you how it works. It's going to be really great. But before we can start planting anything this weekend, again, because it's going to rain here in the next hour or two, I have a very narrow weather window. I'm going to lay these bales out end to end, and I'm not going to put them flat like you see them here. I'm going to put them where this end, the cut end, is facing up. And there's a reason we're going to do that. We've got these bale strings here. That's part of the reason. Also, we're able to put fertilizer and water on top of here so it'll perk down into the interior of the bale and start the inside of this bale composting. It'll create heat, which will help us to be able to plant earlier, and it'll create a composted material that the roots from the plants that we're going to plant directly into this bale are going to love. And we're going to have lush growth on our plants that'll do really well. And the other cool thing is it puts your plants at knee height, where you don't have to bend all the way over to the ground to grab things or do things. It's going to put it at a comfortable working height for us. There's some other advantages that come along with it, but first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a row here, and I'm going to lay these bales out end to end up on their end, and then I'm going to put some fertilizer on top of them and a little bit of nitrogen, because when it starts raining here in a few hours and we get 2 or 3 inches of rain between tonight and in the morning, it's going to be sunny tomorrow, and the rain will have already pushed my fertilizer down into these bales and kicked off the composting process. See, soil is a living thing. This soil here and this hay here already has bacteria and various different little booger-boos living in the soil that are just waiting to digest this hay. Same thing with my garden soil here. There are microbes and all kinds of little good beneficial goodies living in that soil year-round, and they're just waiting for me to plow in all that material so that they can chew it all up and compost it down. And the benefit is it builds the soil and makes that friable soil I was talking about earlier, and they release all those nutrients from that material that they digest into the soil, which we need for our plants. So soil is actually a living thing. It's not inert. It's full of all kinds of little goodies in there that are just waiting to chew up whatever we put in there, and put minerals and vitamins and nitrogen and other things that we need into the soil for our plants to thrive and produce good, tasty, and nutritious vegetables for us. Same thing with these bales. This bale of hay on this grass and in this grass is full of little bugs that are just waiting for enough nitrogen and moisture to start multiplying. And when they start multiplying and reach critical mass, they'll start creating heat. The inside of this bale can get up to 80 or 90 degrees or even warmer, and that will happen as the colony of good things that we want start to grow in there and start converting this grass into dirt. And that's going to be full of nutrients. It's going to be nutrient rich for our vegetables to grow in, and then that's also going to provide nutrients that'll wind up in our vegetables. So I'm going to give you a little bit more about that. I'm going to get started to get a pair of gloves on and start pulling these hay bales out. Physical work, it's good for you. I got some aerobic exercise laying out the rye. Now I'm going to get some more physical exercise putting these bales into the garden.